So, good morning, everyone. It's my privilege to introduce Mr. Mahadeo Raikar. He's the Chief Financial Officer and Key Managerial Personnel at Tata Capital. Tata Capital has been a partner at our Urban Thinkers campus some years ago. And my friend, Ms. Radha Sule, has been a jury member for the Youth Innovation Challenge for several years as well. This year, So without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to Mr. Raikar to take us through his presentation, and then we'll open the questions.
Yeah. Okay. So, ma'am, just one help I would need. Just to share a screen, I need to click the share screen, right? First of all, good morning, all participants. I would say it's my pleasure to meet you guys. So it's a learning for me rather than training you guys. Maybe I will go back with more ideas in terms of how the youth of this country thinks. Because most of you, I am assuming, are in early 20s, right? Most of the guys who are participants over here. If some of you can switch on your videos, it will become easier to communicate. But if it is fine with you.
Also, maybe in the chat section, you can introduce your team and yourself and give a little background, because then Mr. Raikar will have an idea as to, how to structure his thoughts.
You guys can see the screen?
Yes.
Fine. First of all, I am, ma'am, I'm assuming that most of the students who are on the call, for them, finance, they don't have a specific study done on finance or finance as a subject, or yeah, it's fine. So it's like basics of finance is what each one of you would want to understand. What does finance mean? What is the importance of finance? I think that is the level of understanding each one of you would look out in terms of understanding finance. So I will maybe I will go to the next slide and start the discussion. You guys can see this slide. So for each person, it is important to understand what are the four important facets of finance. The first important facets is, when I'm talking about liabilities, I mean to do anything in life, you need, if you have to, in a monetary world which we live, we need money. Okay, and there should be a supply of money. Now this supply of money can come in form of someone giving you gifts. It could be your own savings which you have done over a period of time. It could be borrowings, and then borrowings can be within your family, or it can be from bank. So it's very important to understand this first principle, which is in terms of having supply of money, which is what I call liabilities. Why I call it liabilities is because you need to pay it back, or you need to give some payback to those liabilities. So let's say you borrowed money, you need to repay it back, and that repayment would be with some consideration. So so you need to understand the most important thing, that if you want to do, whether it is a personal finance or whether it is your business finance, you should have supply of capital to you. Okay, and you would need, if it is a venture where you need money beyond your capital, then you would need borrowings also. So, and that means you should be able to plan your capital as well as your borrowings, to what extent we want to do in your business. Okay, so that's the first principle over here. If you the way we can do this session is, if you have questions, you can ask right away, or such that you can understand this better. So anyone, if you guys have a question, I would request you can ask straight away over here, so that I can explain this better. So and there are various ways in which you can raise money. So apart from capital, you can, it's the simplest thing, like having a bank account where you can overdraw money. You can have a credit card on which you can draw money. So there are many ways in which you can raise money, but you should have the discipline in terms of planning how you intend to repay that money, along with how do you intend to pay the interest on that money. So that discipline is very important. To be a good finance, you need to have a good discipline in terms of monitoring your receipts and payments, because you can't miss out on your repayments, because that impacts your credit behavior. So that is the first facet in terms of finance. I can elaborate this and explain it in examples also. The second aspect you need to understand is in terms of your assets. So when you have borrowed money, now you have money in your hand, which is your asset. Okay. Now that asset you can keep in your cash, you can keep it in bank. If you're just keeping that money in hand as cash, obviously it is not generating any returns to you, because it's idle in your hand. Or if you put it in bank, then it may generate a low credit. It's a low risk, because generally the banks won't dupe your money, but it will give you a nominal FD interest. Or you can go and invest this in equity investments. I hope so. How many of us, just ask yourself a question? How many of us have a bank account, if at all? Okay, it's yeah. So it's important to have a bank account. All of us should have a bank account. All of us should have a demat account, and it's not a big investment. You should have a demat account, and you can start with making smaller savings in mutual funds, or in debt funds, or in equity. And if you plan well, you can generate streams of income for yourself. What you should be careful about is in terms of understanding the risk. Lower the risk, the returns are lower, but they are more safer. So typically, a debt investment in a very listed company, or a fixed deposit in a bank is a low interest bearing, or investments in government securities is a low interest bearing. It will give you only say 6% interest. But the point is that it is safe. If you need, you can easily liquidate. So you should look at aspects like getting, if you need money immediately, you need that money for short-term purposes, you should invest in debt funds, which is less riskier. But you should if you are investing this in equity and mutual fund, it carries a risk. The variability of the risk varies from your investments depending on the type of companies you're investing. So if you're investing in a triple A rated company like Tata Consultancy or Reliance Limited, so you are the safety of those investment is far more than investing in a maybe a B stocks or C stocks, or a company which is a small cap funds or mid cap funds. So that those aspects you need to look at when you're doing investments. It is very important to have investments, because investments help you to generate alternate sources of income. So tomorrow, if you are doing a job or you're doing a business and you are generating income out of business, now you will have surplus cash at points in time. You should keep adequate liquidity such that you can meet your day-to-day expenses. If there is a difficult times like COVID, we all are in, these are the most testing times. So when those times you would need definitely liquidity. Let's say you have 1 crore of money with you. You can't invest the entire money in property because you can't dispose of such. So they are slightly illiquid in nature. Property is the most illiquid in nature. So you need to keep adequate liquidity, but beyond that, you should have a bent of mind to do investments. Okay, and the best thing to do is have a wealth manager who advises you. These are not expensive options. There are options available even on internet, like there is ET money, Paytm money, and they tell you what are the options available in terms of investments, what is the variability of risk, and so on. This is the second aspect which you need to keep in mind in terms of assets. In terms of so the other aspect you need to keep in mind is having a profit generating assets. Now this is something that you should constantly keep in mind. Can you invest in a property which gives you rent, or can you let's say invest? There are so many opportunities in terms of generating money. Apart from investment in the equity, some people do invest in assets, not very high value properties, which gives you rent or maybe a farmhouse or something like that. But always keep in mind that you should have some investments which generates incomes for you on a regular basis. Okay, do keep the risk associated with those assets in mind when you are investing in the assets, because risk adjusted returns is the most important aspect you need to keep in mind. So there are so many fly-by night schemes which comes out 36% interest, 40% interest. People get lured into it, but they will pay you interest maybe for 6 months, and then they will run away with your principal and you will lose your money. So never get carried away by such schemes. One important point, though I have not written over in the slide, is where I have written over here is your having an insurance. Okay, this is very important because many of you, by the way, how many of you have thought of taking a mediclaim once you get a job? Okay, most of the Indians, yeah, very good. So at least there is, I can see one hand raising. So it is very important that you have a mediclaim because at early ages in life you don't incur medical expenses, but as you grow in your life, as you cross your 40 of age, the premium increases. So it is very important to have a mediclaim. It is very important to have a term plan because in the event of any untoward incident happening to our lives, our families are protected financially. So it's very important. This is one area where I think India is now, many Indians are paying attention, but it is very important that we ourselves take care of that. Uh, so in fact, any smaller asset, even if you buy something like a mobile or a car, all of this you should think in terms of having insurance because it helps you in terms of uh, not wiping off your investments in case of any untoward eventuality. Uh, so I will just spend a minute in terms of importance of property. See, everyone should plan to have a home. Okay, you can start with a very small investment in terms of having a very small home, which is a basic house which you might need. You might think that you need to, if you don't have your own funds, you might have to borrow. You might have some amount of funds of your own. So maybe let's say a house costs 30 lakhs or 40 lakhs. You might have only say 10% of the amount available with you. You might have to take help of some relatives. I myself have done that. But over a period of time, you will be happy about your decision because for multiple reasons. One, you will have a home of your own. So that's one. If you're not staying in that home, you can always rent that home and earn interest income out of it, rental income out of it. The important part you need to note is it's a long-term asset. It never depreciates. Okay, unless you have invested in an overheated market. And the observation I have seen at least is that uh, if you leave Mumbai aside or the prime metros aside where the prices really soar and then at times it stagnates, most of the tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities, even in a COVID period, the property sale is just booming. It's about the simple reason that we live in a country where everyone doesn't have a home of his own, and it is important that you invest in this because we all need a home in which we want to live. So always have that intention in mind to buy a house of your own. Even if you're living with your parents, have an intention to invest and have a property of your own because the first home is a very important thing. It also gives you tax breaks. Uh, Okay, so it gives you, and many people are not aware of the benefits of taxation which is there, especially for people who are earning up to 10 lakhs. There are significant tax benefits which the government gives. So if you're investing in a property, is your first home, there are breaks in terms of interest payments. There are breaks in terms of principal payments. If it is you are a co-owner, then both the let's say there is a husband and wife who is investing in a property, both the husband and wife gets the tax breaks for the payments they make towards interest and principal. So there are many advantages in terms of having a own property. Uh, Vehicle, I would say, is an asset because if you want to travel, you need vehicle, and it helps in terms of your business. And it could be in various forms. It could be even a two-wheeler or four-wheeler, depending on your choice. So these are the basics in terms of what is a liability and what is an asset. Uh, if you guys are clear so far, then maybe we can go to the next part which I wanted to explain. If you anyone has any questions so far, then maybe we can take it up front right now. And Elsa and Sonali, wherever you think that there is any, you think specifically what certain aspects need to be covered, just let me know. I think if it would be better
Yeah.
if we have a free flow of discussions and questions.
I will second your suggestion and recommendation on investing in property right at the early age. You know, we tend to spend all our money on things that are not necessary, but if you have this goal in mind, it is very easy. So to give you an example, I bought my first flat at the age of 25, and then I went ahead and bought a second flat. And what Mr. Raikar is saying, you get the tax breaks, plus you give it out on rent. So in a way, it kind of pays for itself. And then when I decided to become an entrepreneur and I wasn't earning a salary, it was the income from my property that was my salary. So, it really helps to think about these things from a long-term lens.
So yeah, so let me just take, if it is okay, I will just take maybe 5 more minutes and explain this point. Rather than going to, I have 4 5 more slides, but rather than going into I would just like to give you start with the basics, and then maybe we can go deeper into the concepts. Few things you should always do. Make always make a list of your priorities in life. In next 6 months, next 1 year, next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. All of us want to have a happy and healthy life, and also a financially healthy life. So and we don't want casualties both in terms of life and financial health, because it just take one mistake takes away your entire effort of 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. So let's say we saved a lot of money, and we kept it in cash and bank, which is not interest bearing, and suddenly after 10 years we had one event where we had to spend, and we realized that his entire money is spent. So we will feel so sad, right, after 10 years, that we wasted our money. We spent 10 years in earning, we didn't wisely invest it. So that will make you repent. At the age of 40, let's say you get any critical illness and you realize you don't have a mediclaim, or at the age of 40 you realize that you are staying in a rented flat and your rents are just going up. Imagine how difficult it would be. So that is very important. So just make a list of what your liabilities are and plan your assets towards that liabilities. That will help you. So let's say 10 years down the line you want a car. Maybe at that point in time, keep in mind how you will increase your sources of income. Okay, if you prioritize your liabilities, then you will spend also in that manner. Then you will, maybe if you go to a mall, you will not spend 25,000 just for buying some things which you don't need in life. You'll start, if you prioritize, make a list, then you'll realize, okay, first I want to, so let's say a person is earning a lakh of rupees, and so he should plan it in a manner that maybe 15 20,000 is towards EMIs, another 25 30,000 is towards his household expenses, maybe 10,000 5 10,000 for some luxuries which you want in life, which you want to keep aside, maybe travel, adventure, whatever, and so then balance 30 40,000 for saving. You need to have that kind of a planning in life in terms of simple receipts and payments, and have this for your maybe 5 10 year of a planning. Please have this also for your maybe a next 1 year planning as well, because that will help you to ensure that you spend in a disciplined manner, the way ma'am was saying. Okay, have that discipline. Even if you have a habit of spending on credit card, once you start earning, have the discipline of paying on time. There is a concept known as CIBIL score, and it's very important. When you start earning, have the discipline of filing your tax returns, because all of this helps you in terms of raising business finance. If you want to take a loan from a bank, if you want to take, let's say, overdraft facility or a credit card, they look at your discipline in terms of repayment. Okay, and when you are a new entrepreneur, if you don't have all of this history, they will hesitate to give you a loan, or because they don't know what's your discipline in terms of repayment. So keep these basic principles in life, and I'll always plan for your future. That is very important. We do tend to get carried away with investing in mutual funds with high returns at early age, and then maybe after 10 years realize that we should have also taken a mediclaim. So keep these smaller things in mind when you're planning your assets and liabilities. Uh, when I say the next aspect which I want to cover is the income and expenditure. See, if you're doing a business, then all of these four component kicks in. You will have some liabilities to pay. Even if you have a capital which you have received, whether it is from your parents or you have received capital investment from some friends, you will have to pay it back, that capital. Okay, and you have to pay some returns toward those capital. So that's what we call as cost of capital at times. Because even if you, how many of you heard about Byju's? So it's a classic example of how a small entrepreneur, and we should read stories about how, I think you guys should read story about how Google grew up. Just 1 second. Huh? So I think just one moment. I don't know. I don't think so. कहाँ पे होंगे? So uh, so you just because if you take the example of Google or Amazon, these guys were also startups. Okay, and from a small idea, they grew so big today that they themselves are like generating trillions of dollars of revenues for their country. Okay, but they had an idea with them and they build on that idea. And if you see, they have built strength to strength in terms of being disciplined, in terms of managing their businesses, uh, ensuring that they are disciplined in terms of how they spend. So these aspects you need to keep in mind when you have an idea with you, because you need to plan your expenses well. You need to be sure how what are the areas which will help you generate revenues. uh, Typically in a business, you need to keep in mind what are your income sources, who are your customers. Okay, how will you take care of customers such that you can ensure that you are generating revenues from time to time. Your customers might not be a repeat customers, so you have to find ways in terms of having generating more streams of income. uh, I don't know whether someone, if you have any idea right now which you can share, and maybe they can take that case and just tell you how do you plan your finance. I can do that right away if you have any ideas. Else it would be tell me, ma'am. Bolo Riya, kya hai batao. And
Yeah.
by the way, is English a better language for you to understand, or you want guys you want me to speak in Hindi or Marathi? Let me know. I'm from.
I think
Everybody won't be
uh,
able to understand
so I
Marathi.
think
Everybody
English.
won't be able to understand Marathi. But English would be appreciated.
Hindi English.
English would be appreciated.
Fine. English. Yeah, Riya, bolo.
So can I ask something?
Bolo.
So I had a few questions. I mean, I don't know if this is the right time to ask the question.
Bolo.
So basically, right now I'm a student who is I'm in my second year, like just entered in my second year, and I'm studying finance as a subject. So
Okay.
at this point of time, like ma'am said that she got a flat when she was 25, and now and you in fact advised that there should be some investment which should be started. So at this point of time, when we are so young, so early, not even having a very good knowledge about stock markets, although we're studying about it. So what do you think? How should we manage our personal finances at this point of time?
Okay. So you are studying, right? Do you get stipend?
Uh, so I
Oh, so I
do
will tell
get
you.
a
I will
stipend,
tell
but
you.
not as bad.
No problem. Is it? I will tell you, ma'am. Ria, I used to get 200 rupees of stipend in 1994. That was the point in time I opened my bank account, and from that point in time, I had a discipline of making small monies of investments. Okay. So I bought my first flat in 2007. Okay. But in 94, I was earning 200 rupees of stipend. For that matter, the my senior used to even deduct the stipend if I miss a few days of office. So 200 रुपए से भी वो काट लेता था. ठीक है. From there, by the time I reached 2007, the salary increased to somewhere around 50,000, and then the EMI was 33,000. Okay, so you can imagine what is to leave behind in the hand. The point I'm saying is, you might say I am only earning, let's say, 1,000 rupees of stipend, or your parents might be giving you 1,000 rupees of pocket money. I'm just throwing an example. I don't know what is the range of pocket money these days, because during my college days it's different. But I'm saying even out of the 1,000 rupees you can save. There are schemes in mutual fund which is starting from 100 rupees. Please understand the power of compounding. Please read about our Rakesh Junjunwala. These guys started with 100 rupees of investment in 19 when they started investing. Stock market was 100 points in 1985. If you had invested 10,000 rupees in 1994 in Infosys, today it will become crores of rupees, ma'am. In 2000, TCS was nowhere. It was not part of the top 50 companies. Today, it's part of the top 3 companies in the world, in India. It's the second largest, I think it's the largest IT company in the world. So please imagine the power of investment. You start with smaller monies. आपको एक 100 grams का gold लेना है after 20 years. If you think about it, after 20 years, you will end up selling some of your good investments, make poor choices, and then buy that. Rather than that, if you plan it today. So the point I'm making is, please, if you have, so you can start with 500 rupees, 100 rupees. There are schemes which are of 100 rupees investments also. So it's not that you need to invest 1 lakh rupees. Okay. First of all, always have the discipline of investing, have the discipline of diversifying, have the discipline of identifying your liabilities, both short term and long term. So if you need to invest in education, education is also an investment according to me. It's a very important investment in life. And keep learning all the time in life because it helps you in terms of your career growth. So have that investments in mind. And it is not about investing like crores of rupees. Okay. Uh, I can keep giving you such examples. Warren Buffett, if you've heard about, one of the largest, PE investor in the world. Okay, the founder of Hathaway, he just celebrated his 90th birthday. Now he became billionaire at the age of 48. Okay, no one is see if you are born rich, it's a separate matter. But if we die poor, I think there is a problem because then we have wasted our lifetime. Please remember this principle in life. So whatever age you are, I started my training at the age of 18, as I said, and at that point in time I was earning 207. But at that point in time also I had a discipline of keeping some money aside. I used to break that money also at times, but still I used to continue investing. So it's not that you will be able to invest and not break that investment. Always have. So there are so many liquid mutual funds you can invest in. There are FDs you can invest in. Depending on your requirement of money, whether it is you don't need it for 3 years, 5 years, you can always invest in those smaller sums of money. The smallest amount of investments in shares start with 10,000. And please in life never do one mistake which you should not do is you straight away have say 1 lakh of savings. You straight away go and buy one equity share about which you don't know anything. That is the most stupid thing you can do in life because you're putting all your, I would say, let's say you have all your eggs in one basket. Never do that because if that basket crashes, you lose the entire money. Always diversify your investment. There is no harm in doing that. And there is, in fact, this is the statement which I think Warren Buffett himself made. He started investing in shares at the age of 11 and he said it's too late to start. So please remember that. Okay. And all of these are words of people who are like billionaires and who are examples for all of us. And there are Indian examples also like Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, as I said. So that discipline is very important. The earlier you start, the better, man. Yeah.
So just can I have a follow up here? Just
Yeah.
one follow up. Yeah. At this point of time, like you suggested that you should never put all your eggs in one basket. So should we like what should we do in order to know about blue chip stocks or about companies that are going to rise further? So should we study valuation or should we read about them? Now, what is the basic? What would be your type of advice for the source that we should follow in order to know what will be the best investment?
Okay, so I would advise you as follows. So there are financial advisors who advise you a lot. So the simplest thing you can do is open a demat account with ICICI Bank or HDFC Bank and follow the leaders. That's what I always believe. I don't follow a Ponzi schemes. Never do that. Have a demat account. Okay, it is not expensive at all. Once you do that, you will always have these guys who send you leads. There would be a relationship manager who will be ready to tell you about stocks. Okay, uh, if you start with a demat account and if you start tracking performance of the A listed companies, top 50 NSE companies, top uh, BSE companies, you will find you should track their performance. Always look at companies which are like debt free companies. They are the ones who will have a reasonably good performance point to point. Look at companies if you want. So that's how you should start with. Look at their performance, how they're doing. You can also invest in mutual funds. See, please understand, many people want to directly invest in market. If you're investing directly in market, you should have the ability to track those on a daily basis. Okay, in terms of how their performance is going, what are their cash flows, what was their past performance, what are their future plans. You need a real deep understanding of those stocks if you're investing in a particular stocks. Okay, if you invest in mutual funds which are having larger NAVs, have a past performance record of 3 years, 5 years, sound mutual fund investment managers, that is also another way. And it's not, I would say, a compounded growth rate of returns of 15%, 20% is not at all a bad. In fact, in 2007-8, so the point is, Mr. Warren Buffett always says, what is the market grip with, fear or greed? Okay, and both are opposite of each other. When there is a greed, everybody, all the retail investor starts investing more. Okay, because the markets are going up. Okay, but the long-term safe and intelligent investors, when the markets are like going up, they will start selling because they will start booking profits. So, and when there are losses happening, the markets are going down, there is a fear. That is a point in time the small investor starts selling, but that is a point in time an intelligent long-term player starts investing. So if you see in last COVID 2 years, the amount of financial re-engineering Reliance has done, they have just cleared off their debts which they had for so many years, and the amount of money that or the valuations which has grown for Amazon. You guys should look at, even if you want. So there are investment opportunities now even in US stocks through mutual funds. You can invest in what they typically call as FANG. कितने लोगों को फैंग का फुल फॉर्म पता है? आई डोंट नो. फैंग का फुल फॉर्म पता है किसी को? फैंग मीन्स you know, all of you know FANG, so don't give such expressions. FANG का मतलब होता है Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix and Google. I don't think there will be one person on this call who doesn't use FANG. ठीक है? We all use FANG, but we don't invest in FANG. Their valuations have grown like 50 times in last 20 years. I mean, they are now more richer than the, I mean, they themselves are like $6 trillion, and US economy is what, $13 trillion. Ours is $1 trillion. So you can imagine, and they are just 5 companies. Okay. So 5 great minds can just change the country. That is why you can correlate our Prime Minister immediately upon taking up the assignment as Prime Minister started with Stand Up India, Skill India, all those initiatives which he started. This was had these things in mind, that just 5 or 10 Indians can just change the destiny or the future of this country. So maybe I am too old to start a new venture. You guys are, some of you guys I'm sure would definitely think in those directions. And I'm seriously saying this is where how you should think. Have an ideas which will make difference to our country. But coming back to your question, Ria, this is how you should do actually, and they'll give a lot of leads. Okay, they will tell you, if you take a stock example, they will tell you what's the stop loss. They will tell you what is the target price. Okay, you can study that stock and understand. So let's say today the price is 100. They will say stop loss is 80. Target price is 150. You should look at the near-term prospects of the company. Uska debt levels kya hai, cash flow analysis kya hai. If you're investing in equity, you need to look at these aspects. If you're investing in mutual funds, then you need to look at aspects like whether it is a debt fund or a equity fund, how old the fund is, what has been this last 3 months return, 1 year return, 3 years returns, lifetime returns, size of the NAV, which are the stocks. So typically you will find that mutual fund invest in, there are large cap fund investing mutual funds, or there are mid cap fund investing mutual funds, or small cap. Small cap are the new smaller size companies or the ventures. I will give example of one share, Havels. How many of you heard this name, Havels? Yeah, Havels. We use Havels, right? It's an Indian company. Very few know that, but it's an Indian company. And they are like leaders in FMEG, fast moving electronic goods. Okay. And so this company has got very good vision. I'm not subscribing that you guys should invest in shares of this company, but track these companies which are there. You can also track companies which are B or C stocks, which are doing well, has got a good prospect in terms of, or plans in terms of growing. We use a lot of goods like which are made by say companies like Dabur, or but these companies are also like have got very good long-term plans in terms of growing. So do track performance of these companies in terms of their market share movements. And there is a simple principle that buy in dips and sell in when the markets rise. If you can buy in dips, but you can keep your money for a long-term investments. Never put in one script. That's the principle I keep harping upon. Never put in one script or in just one investment, because you don't know what will happen. Okay. So we have like okay. So now keep one thing in mind. I spoke a lot about investments, but if you have ideas in terms of doing businesses, then do have a budget in mind. Do have a plan in mind in terms of, maybe I will go to the next slide. So I think when you're doing a financial planning, I personally believe in these two principles. You should have a plan and you should review that plan on regular basis. Okay, because we live in a volatile world right now. Okay, in management parlance they call it as VUCA world, the VUCA world: volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. So it is very important that you have a plan in place, and you also have a mechanism to review your plan. So maybe on a 6 monthly basis, 1 year basis, you just have a reassessment where you are in terms of what you planned. Okay. And the more you're invested in riskier ideas, the more it is important that that much more is the frequency of which you review. So if you're like so if you do a really high risk derivative instruments, or you invest in trading instruments which where the prices change on daily basis, then that much level of monitoring you will have to do. Always keep liquidity in mind, because don't put the entire money into investments such that you don't have a liquidity for your meeting your expenses for the next 3 months, 6 months, or so on. Be it personal finance or be it business finance. This is a basic principle which every company follows. We all have gone through COVID, and we have seen that most of the large corporates, they have managed these difficult times because they kept adequate liquidity. So immediately when the COVID kicked in, everybody had a business contingency plan and ensured that they have 3 months of adequate liquidity, 6 months of adequate liquidity, rather than going and investing blindly. They took that cautious approach. So these things, even everyone needs to do in their personal lives. Uh, See, I will take this point of budget. Just now I touched the four facets in terms of what is liability, what is assets, what is income and expenses. Now, you should make a budget for yourself, and maybe a fairly detailed budget which shows you what are your sources of from where you can borrow. When I say equity, it means your capital which you have. This capital can come from some friends ready to invest in your ideas, your parents ready to invest in your ideas, your own savings of the past. Okay, that is how you start your business. Okay, your borrowings could be long term or short term. Okay, when I say long term borrowings, it means a loan which you need to repay after 3 years or 5 years. Okay, we need to keep in mind that we need to have sources of income to repay the interest cost towards it and the principal. Track your incomes and expenditure. And one aspect you need to keep in mind in terms of your income is your income sources. If they are recurring, that is more durable. It increases the durability of your business if you have recurring income sources. So find recurring sources of income, find streams of income which keeps growing time to time, because that will give you more flexibility in terms of doing alternate sources of investments and new sources of business. uh, when your cost, the best way to incur your cost, rather, is ask yourself a question whether this is a recurring cost, whether this is a discretionary cost. Sometimes it so happens that you have options to spend. So let's say you want to start a business, you might buy a very lavish office, and then after a few months you realize that the rent is too high and you have wasted your money. Don't do that. Plan your expenses well. Find ideas where you can understand what is, whether the cost is discretionary or not. uh, because if you are spend on costs which will give you returns, then you are sure that your returns will be better than what you have spent for. This is the cardinal principle you need to keep in mind if you want to make profits in each of your venture. uh, Look at streams, look at costs which are fixed in nature, which are variable in nature. And it is important to have use technology in such a manner, whichever business you do, that it helps you to reduce your cost. Many of the new business ideas which are coming up, like the Ola, or these are like, they really leverage technology. Okay. uh, Today if you want to earn money, so if you have idea of renting cars and earning money, you did not have own a fleet of 1,000 cars. You should have a software where you can like Ola has, where you can onboard the drivers. You can have a business model with them, revenue sharing model with them, and you will make more money than rather owning these vehicles on your own. So have such ideas. And this, so that's the last point I was saying. Many of the small time, and it's not that the big daddies of the businesses will last forever. There are smaller venture units which come up with new ideas, but with innovation, and they disrupt. Uh, I mean, there is a concept which is emerging in the 21st century, which they call as disruption. Uh, Everyone wants to disrupt others' business, but you can do that if you have a good innovative idea based on technology. You can definitely do that. Uh, the innovation, other advantage of having using technology, it helps you to improve your cost and reduce your cost while your income remains intact. uh, Always in your business, look at areas to improve your network, improve your customer base, and technology always helps you to do that. So if you want to do a business, you should keep all of these principles in mind. I repeat, what are your sources of funds, which is your borrowings and equity? What are your assets you want to generate? What are your regular sources of income, and what are your expenses? So this is what are the four. See, the principles of finance, which is assets, liabilities, income, expenses, also applies in terms of budgeting. So what does a budget typically mean? You plan for future. You make a sketch in terms of how would your next 1 year or 2 years budget look like, or your plan look like in terms of these four aspects. Uh, you want me to, if anyone has any questions on this, we can discuss right now. Elsa, you want me to elaborate this further, or maybe?
No, I think this is absolutely important because I can tell you as a entrepreneur myself, you need to have your own budget. And what Mr. Raikar is telling you, your personal and your professional kind of go hand in hand, because if you, as an entrepreneur, it takes about 3 to 5 years for you to stabilize your operations. And if in that point in time, you are not personally financially stable, it causes a lot of stress in your mind as a founder, as an entrepreneur. So both go hand in hand. And that's why if you start early and you're sustainable at both ends, it will really help you in your business.
Absolutely. So the least you should do is find ways to have revenues to meet your household expenses or your day-to-day expenses. If you have, if in your mind, always keep couple of things. If you can have streams of income which helps you survive, sustain the most difficult times, where you can meet your expenses, then you will always have time to invest in new ideas which will give you long-term sources of income, like Elsa ma'am was saying. And keep one thing in mind: there are so many good ideas which each one of us have, but what happens is, if you don't plan properly, at times you make losses and those ideas go down the drain. So if you have good ideas in your mind, don't let this happen to your ideas. Okay. uh, Keep viability and those aspects in mind, and be careful that you might have a very good idea, but because of a poor planning. So ma'am, if it is okay, I will give one example of nano car. uh, this nano car by Tata Motors is a case study for two reasons. It is, in the first place, it is a case study for being the most innovative car in the world. It is the most innovative car, and it is the cheapest car in the world. And the amount of effort, you should watch that video of this innovation they have done. They had tried to save cost even of the key that they make. So they went back and negotiated with their vendors that we need your help to bring our cost down. So let's say the cost of a key typically is say 10,000. They negotiated and tried to bring even the cost of a key down to say 2,000 rupees. I'm just giving an example. That is the level of effort they put to bring cost down of every component that goes into making a car, and therefore it is the most, I would say, one of the best innovations they did in terms of bringing the cost down and making a car which is so cheap. But the problem happened in terms of selling that car. When they had to sell that car, and this is also another case study which I was referring to, that uh, when they were selling that car, the car was meant for smaller families, people staying in tier 3, tier 4 villages where the roads are narrow. There are people who travel by autos or don't have can't afford a car, or traveling by two-wheelers. This car was made for them, but the marketing never happened in those areas, which is why this car didn't sell. So the point I'm making is, you need to have a good idea. You may do very well in uh, producing a good product, but if you make a mistake in selling that product, you will not make money out of that idea which you have. So it is very important to plan your journey end to end very well. Okay. uh, Maybe I will go to the next slide. Uh, See, this is one thing I wanted. Can you guys see this slide? So this is where I was saying cost management is very important in your business. Okay, every company which is a successful company is a cost leader. You can't if you just blow away your money and just waste your money, whether it is in business or personal finance, you will never make money. And it's not, becoming rich is not about earning more. Okay, the more you save, the more you take use discretion while spending, the more it is possible that you will be successful. So typically I'm taking this as a business case study, where typically the people look at what are the direct costs for earning revenues. You spend more on your direct cost, which helps you to earn revenues, provided you're sure that you will be able to generate revenues. Always keep a control on your administrative cost. Okay, if you are a new idea, as I said, you don't need a lavish office to start with, because you will just blow away your money. Look at what your fixed costs and your variable costs are, because the problem with the fixed cost is uh, COVID is the best example. Let's say you had a rented office and you can't go to your office for 2 years. You will just keep incurring that fixed rental cost, and that money will go down the drain and just wipe away your lifetime savings. uh, Discretionary cost. This is what the example I was giving, that when you're incurring a cost or you're spending on advertising or any such thing in your business, is it necessary? This discretionary word is very important in life also, like ma'am was saying. uh, we should not just waste away our money or on some unwanted expenses or saving. I think I have emphasized this as much as I can. Not that I'm saying that we should not enjoy your life, but you should use discretion whether you really need to spend on them. When you're starting a new venture, you might have to incur certain project costs. Okay, carefully plan those project costs, and where are you spending those project costs? How is that money going to come back to you? Okay. The other thing is cost of innovation and research. This is very important point. Uh, Companies like JLR, we must have heard the name Jaguar Land Rover company. This company was acquired by Tata Motors. So at that point in time, when they had acquired this company, the reason why most of these MNCs do well is because they spend a lot on innovation and research. In fact, their R&D cost was 4 times Tata Motors, and Tata Motors has acquired this company. So you can imagine the size of money this company spent. So you guys, if you want to be successful, will certainly invest on innovation and research in whatever ideas you have. Uh, because you need to spend some amount, a good amount of money over here. Uh, but be careful when you're planning this, because this is your, I would say, intangible investment that you make. Intangible meaning it might not give you a return immediately. It might be in terms of some software or so on. Okay. Uh, think about this carefully and plan this very carefully. Marketing and branding costs, as I said, digital versus physical. Uh, these days digital advertising is something that has been given emphasis on. We see very few TV and ad campaigns by especially financial services, but you try to reach out through WhatsApp, Facebook, and those types of push medias, where you can just keep giving feeds to people and push your ideas. So look at these costs, and uh, costs which are helping you to increase your revenues is where you should be spending more, according to me. Find ways and means where how you can save your admin costs. Any questions here so far, or we can go to the next section? How many of you guys have made a plan? Maybe when I say a plan, a rough sketch in terms of what you want to do after you pass out, whether you want to do business or you want to do a job or you want to become an entrepreneur. Uh, how many of you have thought through, or if you have any ideas, you can let me know, then maybe I can connect and give you suggestions right now. Should we go to the next slide, ma'am?
Sure, Priya has her hand up.
Okay, I can't see the hand up. Sorry, we are not used to Zoom in our organization, so you need to really spare me for that. I can't see. Priya, if you have a question, you can ask.
Yeah, so sir, I had a question. Since I'm working on a startup, it's a
Hmm.
sex tech based startup, and we are building an ecosystem around it.
Sorry,
So we
what?
have multiple.
Sorry, what based startup? Sorry.
It's around sexual health.
Okay,
So
ma'am.
we in that we are building an AI based chatbot.
Very good.
So under it, we will have teleconsultation with experts.
Okay.
That is one revenue source. We will be charging users.
Okay.
The second revenue source is advertising products. So we will be generating revenues from other companies.
Okay.
And the third is providing premium services to users. So we
Okay.
have three different revenue streams.
Okay.
So I wanted to understand how should we go about planning our financials? Should whatever revenue we generate, should we put it back into like getting more revenues, or should we invest like 20-30% somewhere else as well so that we could get fixed profits as well?
Okay. So it's a good. So first of all, I would say uh, it's good that you guys have an idea where you are able to generate revenues. Uh, First and foremost thing. So let's take an example. Let's say in a month you generate say 50,000 rupees of income. Now try to. So you are incurring costs right now for generating these incomes. Are you incurring costs towards generating these incomes?
Yes, so we
Okay.
have freelancers and we have other people that we have hired.
Okay, so let's take an example, and this could be you might not want to disclose the entire credential. So let's take you're spending 3 lakhs and you're generating, let's say, 5 lakhs. So you're generating a surplus of 2 lakhs. So what you should do is sorry, I missed your name, ma'am. So you should
Real.
Priyal, what you should do is so this idea you are sure you want to do it over the next 1 year, 2 years, and to scale this business.
Yes.
So
So
then,
since it's an AI-based chatbot, we want to go global with it.
very good. So my suggestion is, if your priority, so keep some liquidity in hand. Okay. So what you can do is you can invest in secured. So let's say your surplus cash, you can invest, keep this money in terms of bank FDs or such sources which such that you get some return over it. Never keep money as cash in hand. Always keep money in some liquid form. It could be liquid mutual funds also, such that it generates some sources of revenues for you. Okay, and you don't have a negative carry on your financials, in the sense that you don't lose on those interest income and so on. That's one suggestion. My suggestion would be, you want to scale it globally, then what is the cost you need to incur to scale it globally? You should gauge that cost. Okay, and accordingly, I would say use this money for so partly you should keep as a liquidity, such that you should keep 3 to 6 months of liquidity in available with you, such that you can survive if there is a difficult time. That's the first principle you should keep in mind. Now, how much of liquidity you want to keep is as a choice you want to do, but certainly a prudent thing is to have 3 6 months of liquidity. Beyond that, Priyal, whatever money surplus you have, you should try to use it in terms of building this chatbot further, or making it, I would say, more robust, such that you can take your ideas globally. Initially, you will have an investment. You may take some risk in terms of having lower liquidity, but I would certainly advise you to invest in your ideas further, such that you can scale it at a bigger scale. Okay. Uh, have the discipline of filing returns, even if it is a nil return. Have the discipline of filing returns. Okay. Just 1 second. I need to take. Hello. Haji, Haji. Sure. Have a discipline of. Sorry. You going back to your idea. Please go ahead and invest in your idea, but keeping some amount of liquidity with you. But your priority should be to scale this idea further, according to me. Any further questions you have?
No, sir. Thank you so much.
Mr. Raikar, I wanted to ask you, so, most of them are also first-time entrepreneurs, and this happened to me when I was starting out my business.
Yeah.
We were 3 partners, and we did not really, have these conversations about how much each one is putting in, and how many shares will we each have and all that. So can you share some tips on what to think about, and what if somebody doesn't have the money but they are putting in more time? So
Yes.
is it only money that is accounted for, or how do we account for each partner's contribution?
Ma'am, that's a good point, a very good point, in fact, ma'am, for an entrepreneur. And typically, in a finance world, there are many CAs who start that way. So there might be two CAs who might come together. And ma'am, there are two ways of, so there could be two types of partnership. One where both are contributing equal amount of money and ideas. And the second could be where one is contributing money and second is contributing ideas. Let's take these two examples. Now, certainly the person who is putting the idea and his time and effort but not having money is the person, he is like a CEO of the company. So typically, if you see, take the example of a company, there are two key stakeholders in a company. One is the CEO of the company who runs the company, and second is the shareholder of the company. The shareholder of the company is a person who has money, but he will not have time to sit and in that company on day-to-day basis and run the company. So, ma'am, it is important the returns which should go. So both are equally important. The person who is putting the money should get returns to the extent that he has invested the money, but the person who is putting his ideas, he should get remunerated well to the extent of the risk he is taking, to the extent of time and efforts he is making in the business. Both are equally important. Uh, I would not undermine one of the two. Both are equally important according to me. It is very important that you upfront. So when you're making a budget in this manner, so there are many large examples and there are small examples also. If you are doing a startup and you are having such kind of a setup, upfront have a profit sharing model in place. So let's take, there are two of these colleagues over there on the call. Let's say there is Mr. A, Mr. B who are investing. Mr. A, let there be a clear understanding that, let's say, uh, while the ideas, the person is contributing ideas may not have money, but the point is that if because his ideas is going to generate revenues for that organization, you should assign some value to it. So it's quite possible that though he's just not contributing money, maybe out of the total 4 lakh profit share, maybe 2 lakhs can go to the person who invested and 2 lakhs can go to the person who is contributing ideas. Okay, but it is important to have that sharing in mind upfront, such that later on there are no disconnects about it. But ma'am, in a practical world, if you see, many of these small time investors, a lot of value is attributed to the ideas they contribute. In fact, the idea which Priyal was saying about artificial intelligence and chatbots and those kind of investments, my own sense, and I am, if you see, this in the upcoming next not just 1 year, next 10 years, uh, machine learning, artificial intelligence, chatbots, uh, all of this data analytics, data science, all of these buzzwords are going to dominate and make a lot of difference. And there are a number of examples about this. The way China managed their COVID or Singapore managed their COVID is a perfect example how they use technology and ensured. So, ma'am, uh, uh, going back to your point, yes, it's important to assign value. Be very clear in your sharing models, and it's not that person contributing ideas is not investing. It is it has equal importance according to me.
So you also mentioned that, what if they are making a profit, but what if they are making a loss? Because in the beginning, you don't have the revenues to actually break even. So how do you tide over that point in time,
So, ma'am,
that
fair
gap?
enough. So, ma'am, I would not say loss. I would say it's an investment you are doing. So, let's say, ma'am, there are two persons who are investing next 2 years. One person is bringing in, and let's say next 2 years. So, even the cost which they're incurring for running that project. So, you have to look this like a project, ma'am. Let's say you are building a chatbot or artificial intelligence platform, and 2 years is the time you are going to take. So one person, and let's say for 2 years you need to spend 5 lakh rupees. Now, first 2 years it will not generate revenue. Please understand this. So those 2 lakhs what you invested is the asset which you are generating. That asset will go live after 2 years and start, let's say, turning around 50,000 rupees of income. Okay, you should have patience to understand how much is the investment you are going to do. So let's say both agree that 2 years is the investment you are going to do. For 2 years, you are not going to generate any revenue, and we need to be surviving for the next 2 years. Uh, for that 2 years, you have this entire money is the asset which you have generated, which is the project cost. Once the project go live, that is the point in time you will get returns towards the project, and that point in time maybe you should share those profits amongst yourselves, or maybe consider as a return towards your investment that you have made. uh, so then, and this is not just unique for a small entrepreneur, it is unique also for a large corporate. Even for so when you're making an investment, so let's say large corporate is going into a new product line or a new market, for them also it's a calculated investment. They will see what's the same principle what I wrote on this chart. They will look at all of these aspects, look at the cost, and then think invest that. You have to give time. It's like sowing a plant. You need to give time. It will not produce a fruit on day one. You have to give time for that. Until such time, you can't call it as a loss, unless the idea has been thrashed, saying that no, it's a redundant idea. I think that is a painful point where you have invested, and say you invested your minds and someone has invested money. I'm purposely taking extreme example. Now, after 2 years, you realize that all of this is going down the drain. It's a painful thing, but that can happen even to investments that you make in a bank. Okay. Uh, you have to be very careful in doing such investment, but uh, till such time your idea has not gone down the drain, you can't call it as a loss, man.
I think that's a great way of putting it. So you can't, because a lot of people, they get paralyzed in their mind when they think of it as a loss, but you're saying think of it as an investment, and there is a window of time where you have to go through this period. I also wanted to ask you,
Yes.
as founders and entrepreneurs, initially, because the cash flow is low, or you're putting in the investment, you might not be able to take a salary or a big salary. So what can you put a notional cost for the time put in and later collect that, when you make a profit?
See, okay. See, Elsa, actually, when you're starting up, see, typically what happens when you're starting a entrepreneur business of your own, uh, the so while I said this, see, we have to be patient with the business idea. Now I'm see, let's extend this example. For the first 2 years, you have drawn your basic salaries, minimum amount of salaries for your for your survival. Okay. Now your PNL would certainly show a loss. See, the point you need to understand is uh, where this period where you're surviving for 2 years, where you're incurring these expenses. Uh, uh, yes, you are. It's a notional loss, but I mean, you can't just say that, okay, this is there is no, it's a notional loss, man, which you have to be accepting as a part of the business. Okay. And this happens to large corporates also. So the thing, what is more important is, do you have the pockets which can help you to survive in those times when you're a budding entrepreneur? Yes, it will be difficult times. You might draw minimum salaries out of it, but when your ideas start kicking in after say 6 months, year, 2 years, that is the point in time you will start seeing profits also. Okay. Uh, Maybe what you can do, or what each one of us should plan is, are there ways in which we can earn alternate income such that these losses are lowered? I would think that way. So if I have an idea to do this, what are the ways in which I can? So just keep two things in mind. How can you keep your cost bare minimum? Okay, just keep this thing in mind. Second thing you should keep in mind: what are the alternative sources of income you can get? Okay, uh, there are people who try to, so just don't depend on one source of income ever in life. Always have alternative sources of income. Make your investment work for you 24/7. Keep these basic small things in mind. It will help you to survive such times in a better manner. Okay. uh, Ma'am, I think I hope I answered your question, that in terms of handling this
Yes.
short of.
Yes, absolutely. So I mean, when I did the business model canvas with them also, I tried to explain to them that the more the revenue streams you have, the diverse it is, the better for you as an entrepreneur. So your risk is lower, and you have lesser loss.
Yeah. One discipline, please file your income tax return, even if it is a loss return or a lower income. There is no harm in doing that. It helps you to raise finance better. Please look at government schemes which are available in terms of supporting young entrepreneurs like you, where they do give tax concessions. Last, I would say, few years, government has done, I would say, a revolutionary job in terms of encouraging people to transparently file returns. That helps you. So having a 3-year income tax filing record with income generated does help you to generate short-term finances, which will help you to generate cash, matlab borrowings for you, and that money can help you to maybe survive in this period. Okay, so do keep these things in mind. We often tend to ignore the tax aspect and the discipline of filing tax returns and investments in life. Do have that discipline right from day one.
I think that's a great point, because even for CSR funding, some companies want 3 years of audited finances. So
Correct.
it's better that you do it right from the start. And even once you become a non-profit, if that's the route that you are taking, once you have your 3-year audited result, only then you can apply for CRA, which is the permission to get foreign funding.
And ma'am, it just takes, I will tell you, it will, if you have, so for a salaried person, it will not take more than half an hour to prepare a return. It's that simple. The portals are made in such a manner, you can update that, download the forms, update in Excel, and just click of a button, you upload, your returns get filed. If there are tax reductions and refunds, those refunds comes in less than 7 days. So government has made a lot of work in terms of tracking the income tax filings of the I would say startups. And the other advantage is the moment you start filing these returns, you are generating a good credit history for yourselves. A smaller idea like taking a credit card and spending on credit card and paying it on timely creates a good CIBIL score. Okay, quite a lot of time it so happens that you apply for a loan, personal loan or something, and you don't have a credit score. So people are not sure. So even taking a CD, consumer durable loan or a personal loan. When I'm saying this, I see there is a poor notion in our country that you borrow and you don't pay. Never get into that trap. Never get into the trap of borrowing and delayed payment, because that will hurt your score for at least 8 to 10 years. But have the discipline of making small. So let's say I had a credit card for like more than now 10, 12 years, paying those credit card dues on time. There's no harm in having a credit card and spending your essential expenses on credit card, but then paying it back on time. I have been doing this for last so many years. Uh, do keep this discipline. CIBIL score is one important financial indicator which the banks look at when they're giving you a loan or a credit, because then they see your discipline in terms of paying. Okay. Uh, uh, there are a lot of opportunities in terms of borrowing from banks. If you have a good idea, they are certainly ready to help you out, but they do look at the aspects which ma'am said in terms of your income tax returns. Should we go to the we have, how much time we have? We have another 15 minutes to go.
Yes.
Okay. I have explained this point in terms of cost. Most of these points are the last point which I said. Good credit score helps to raise credit. Okay. The important aspect, one important point which I would like to highlight is now I forgot the name. The first candidate who was asking me a question about how to make investment in equity. So if someone wants to invest in your idea, you know what he will check in your idea? He will like to look at cash flow. Okay, how much cash flow are you generating out of your ideas? It sounds like a cold-blooded banker, but that is what a person looks at. If you have a good idea which will generate cash flows and healthy cash flows for next 5 years, 10 years, somebody would certainly be ready to invest in your ideas. Okay, there are so many investment opportunities which are happening, where private equities come in and invest in these ideas. There is another important thing like micro, small, and medium enterprise registration. Uh, this is the very good initiative which government has done, where if you have an idea in terms of starting up a small plant or a unit or a business unit or an industrial unit, it could be a very small unit, and they have made limits for that, whereby they classify those units as micro, small, medium enterprise, or maybe accordingly based on the investment in terms of the machinery and so on. So if you have ideas around it, and if you do registrations around it, there are then what happens is government does come in and give you a lot of finance. If you have a business idea where you're paying GST, which is the goods and services tax, and you have GST returns filed on time to time basis where you're paying your taxes on time, government does step in, and there are banks which do look at these returns and then give you are ready to give you finances. So not just the income tax return, but also the indirect tax. Having an indirect tax registration and doing filings helps an entrepreneur in terms of getting credit from the government as well as from the banks. Uh, I think government does. There are schemes. I'm sure all of you has an Aadhaar card with you. Uh, if you come from a financial background which is slightly you have financial difficulties, I think there are Janadar schemes. uh, do look at such opportunities in terms of support from the government. uh, Now, typically, while I have written these ideas for revenue generation, the fastest way to grow an idea is through using internet, using technology, using mediums like WhatsApp, uh, having a software in place where people can log in and explore, enjoy the services that you give online. These are the fastest way of generating revenues. Okay. Uh, the simplest example of online revolution, I would say, or generating revenues is Amazon. I Is there anyone on this call who has not used Amazon? Is there anyone on this call who has not used Netflix or uh, these kind of services? I doubt. I seriously doubt if would have not even known about this or not used this, because all of these ideas are based on the IT platform, which helps them to reach out to customers in across the world. Okay, and you keep generating revenues while even if you yourself are not physically working, someone else is working for you and generating revenues for you. So do use this means of technology. And what technology is going to do is it's going to make a lot of difference. And so let me spend maybe a couple of minutes talking about this new term called disruption. uh, these days business models are based on disruption. You just disrupt someone else's business, and a new idea can also do this to a large venture or a large financial institution. It is not that a small new idea by a young budding entrepreneur can't change the way business is done. So this is one thing, and most of them use either innovation or they use technology to disrupt the business. But that does help you to grow your business faster. That does help you to reach to newer avenues. You should be very focused in terms of how you can innovate, because in these days the biggest challenge is in terms of someone else copying your ideas and replicating it, and he might make more money while you are the originator of the idea. If you see the way competition is happening between Apple and Chinese phones, so while they can't match Apple, they will do come out with phones which will meet most of the needs at a price which is like say 40% of what Apple charges. So that is what keeps happening in a world which is like technology driven. But there are advantages of being living in such technology driven world, where even if there is a COVID kind of situation, you can still you find ways to reach out to your customers. You can find ways to grow your business. There are many ventures which have grown in last 2 years. Uh, Typically, they call unicorns, the new unicorns which are growing. All of these are technology based, which are growing. So keep these aspects in mind when you are growing your business. Uh, be an intelligent investor. One concept you need to keep in mind when in finance world, when you're doing a business, and they typically call it EBITDA. Okay, so when you ask a question about how to invest in equity, this is what one aspect you need to look at, EBITDA, which means what is your earnings before you pay your interest, tax. That's what you look at, depreciation. Okay, so you look at those margins when you're looking at a business, and typically this free cash flow is what helps to pay your this free cash flow generated by business helps you to pay your costs towards the interest for the borrowings you need to, and to pay taxes, and then the depreciation to replace the assets that you got. uh, Typically look at in doing business lines where you receive your payments on time. So if you have got customers, it is always important to have customers who pay you on time. And then you have when you have vendors, it is important to have vendors who work with you as business partners and help you in faster turnaround of your ideas and better service to the customers. If you have employees who are not just people who think about earning salaries, but people who participate and think that they are owners of the organization. There are concepts like ESOPs. I don't. You guys must have not heard. So large organizations to retain employees use this concept where they make employees shareholders of the company, such that they have more interest in continuing with the company. So their intention is not just to work for 9 to 6 and walk away, irrespective of what happens to the company. Their intention is to be a partner in the company and serve long term. Uh, do keep these things in mind when you are doing a business. Uh, I have this. I maybe I can share this, and this is how the typically the uh, uh, calculations happen in terms of profit. So, what is the operating profit that you make in a business? You look at your incomes and you look at your costs. Whatever is the net after reducing cost from the income gives you your cost to income ratios. Debt equity is also something that you need to look at. So let's say you have a lack of equity, you can't afford to have maybe 10 times of debt as compared to equity, because you will not be able to pay that much of interest. Organizations look at aspects like return on assets. So whatever investment you made in your assets, what are the returns it is generating towards those assets. Return on equity means if someone has contributed you capital, what is the free cash flow you're generating out of that business? Uh, that is what the enterprises look at, okay, when they're investing in your ideas, and you should also look at. So let's say you invest in equity investment, typically uh, it will give you a return of say 10%, 15%, 20% over a long-term period. So stock markets have grown somewhere between 15 to 17% in last 20 years. So you should look, that is how you benchmark and compare. So when you are doing an investment, if you are investing in FDs, you will be getting in current period interest somewhere in bank FDs between 5 to 6%. So depending on the risk associated or the accordingly you expected the returns, this is something that you should also look at your business. This is the formula of EBITDA, which I said. I have covered most of the aspects what I wanted to cover. If you have any specific questions, you can let me know.
Anyone has any questions? I think Mr. Raikar did a great job of, making it really simple to understand. And I would seriously urge you, no question is dumb, no question is stupid. Please ask, because this is your opportunity.
So can
Sir.
I ask something?
Yeah. Who's this?
Ria.
Yeah, tell me.
So actually, I just wanted to know that the way you suggested us to read Nano case study and about Rajiv Jhunjhunwala. So could you please suggest a few topics which we should, as aware students, read about in order to know more about finances and start the whole journey?
Okay. Okay. Sure. I will tell you one thing. Uh, you can read about Rakesh Jhunjhunwala. He is an Indian example of investing in equity shares and equity markets. In fact, people have now got into habit of blindly investing in shares wherever he starts investing 2-3% share. Don't do that, but follow him. How? So I am telling you to follow him in terms of understanding how he started 20 years back and now what he is his history. You should read about Warren Buffett, how he started his investments and now became one of the wealthiest person. In terms of startup ideas, you should read about Google. You should read about Amazon. Mr. Jeff was a librarian on. I think he had started with the online library, a very small idea, and how we grew up. Uh, Microsoft, Mr. Bill Gates, he also started with the idea of making this Microsoft software. Read about Mr. Steve Jobs. Okay, I would say Steve Jobs is a brilliant case study. I am not completed reading about him, but how he came up with smaller ideas, how he used to read about sans serif, and how he used those languages in his software building. Uh, he had very innovative ideas in terms of starting up a business. So the best quote he used to always say is simplification is the best sophistication we can do for the customer. Okay, why? I mean, Apple is known as Apple because using Apple is as simple as eating apple. I mean, someone can think of making such a complex phone which a person who has never used a phone can also use. Making a smartphone is, I mean, even a dumb person can use a smartphone, and they are real smartphones which they are making. So have such ideas, ma'am. Two aspects keep in mind. If you're looking for ideas about good investors, read about Rakesh Jhunjhunwala. You can also read about how Mr. Dhirubhai Ambani built his business, how he came out with. He was an employee, and then he, from that level, he resigned from his job. He was working in African country, and he was promoted after that. He resigned his job, came back to Mumbai, and started a business. Do read about them. It will give you ideas and inspire you in terms of how to build your business. There are books available in terms of financial planning, financial modeling. You can look at those books. It will tell you in terms of basics of how to build a budget, and a lot of information is available also on the Google in terms of how you can make a simple budget for yourself. In terms of uh, if you just understand how Warren Buffett invested and build his capital, it will give you enough ideas in terms of doing investments. Have a relationship manager in terms of opening a demat account. They can also give you inputs and guidance in terms of how to invest in stock markets or mutual funds or making investments in there are, or investments in debt. Start with small basics, and surely you can do that. In terms of tax planning, I can also share, ma'am, this ready reckoner which I have, and you should regularly. There are, uh, uh, if you just, I mean, there is one saying, ma'am, which everyone today says that in past you used to pray to God if you have to search something. Today you should pray to God and then go to Google. You will find most of the basic information that you need. I mean, everybody is doing this, not just in the even in the corporate world, people are doing this. So you'll find a lot of literature, enough basic literature even on Google in terms of uh, how to invest and where to invest.
Absolutely. So, totally agreed. So, just one last follow up here.
Yeah, man, bolo.
Like, at this point of time, degrees like CFA, CA, do they help us more, or do reading about case studies, reading about people, and hunting over Google, like you said, helps more?
Okay, good question. So, ma'am, if you want to do a career in finance, so the question you should ask yourself: Do you want to do a career in finance, or you want to manage your finance while you're doing a career in some other area? So, let's say you have an idea about engineering or some artificial intelligence or data science, and you want to make money out of that idea. Then you should invest in learning that idea. Then you need to only learn to manage finance. Uh, okay, now having maybe learning, if you do so I will tell you the advantages of CA. If you learn CA, it gives you opportunity to work in financial services sector, or you can work in finance department of any of the large companies. It also helps you to work in even a government venture where you in terms of public finance. If you are done CFA, it gives, and if you're done let's say uh, engineering or any other such degree, and then you're doing CFA, or you're purely doing a CFA, which is Chartered Financial Analyst as a profession, it opens up avenues in terms of credit risk manager in large organization, or risk management in large organizations, or treasury management. It teaches you basics of finance, risk, treasury management, liquidity management. It also teaches you business finance. So if you have a so typically in large organizations I have seen where a person understands. So one of the CEOs that I know, they are engineer, and then they have done these kinds of MBA and CFA. So what happens is they have an engineering knowledge which helps them to use that knowledge in terms of growing business, and then they know how to manage finance because they have done these types of courses. Depending on the scale of your venture or the idea that you have, you need to accordingly plan whether you want to learn basics of finance, or you want to go up to such level. But certainly if you're done CFA or a CA, it will help you to take a full-time career in financial in managing finance or financial services.
Sure, sir. Agree. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure.
Any other questions?
I had seen Mithi River's hand also going up. I'm not sure if it was a mistake. Mithi River, do you have any questions?
Sorry, ma'am. I'm not able to just minimize the screen. And so we are not used to using Zoom in office. So we are very much, in fact, for a couple of minutes at the start, it was a struggle to just log into this.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
So
Because
is this your last slide? Because then we can stop the screen share and just
yeah. This is the last slide, ma'am. This is the last slide.
Okay. So Meethi River, I think you had your hand up. Do you want to ask any questions?
Yes. So our project is Mithi River Clean project. We clean the water and utilize that water for different domain like hydroponic, aquaponic, and mangroves. So my question is, how do we apply for carbon credit? Yeah.
Oh, it's a very specific question you are asking. Uh, I have not studied about carbon credits. Specifically I have not come across this topic, but you need to actually uh, maybe understand more about this. I can check and help you in this regard. But I think are you aware how carbon credits work? So practically, government is trying to encourage uh, reduction of carbon emissions. Okay, government have taken targets towards reduction of carbon emissions. I'm just saying this is my basic understanding of this. Government look at and so if let's say a venture tries to reduce carbon emissions, they do give carbon credits towards it. How to monetize that at this point in time, I'm not sure, my friend. I think maybe I can just study about this and let you know. Maybe we can have a small WhatsApp group, or I can share with Ashwin as well, and we can keep interacting. But that's a very good venture, I would say, and I would really like to congratulate you for having such an ideas. But
Now I sure because nowadays even the Mukesh Ambani, he wants to turn his Reliance total Reliance group on hydrogen based and different like a renewable based power projects. So definitely the future is like carbon saving and
yeah. Yes, I think all countries, in fact, China has already moved to like electronic vehicles, okay, based vehicles, and they are moving away from fuel based vehicles. India has taken 2030 target, as per my understanding, but our honorable roads and minister Mr. Nitin Gadkari, and really I would say he is like a phenomenon. I would say, matlab, he really just cuts the targets and takes everyone by surprise. There is a serious effort made to reach there by 2023, and I won't be surprised if he does that, achieves that. I would really not be surprised the way he has been doing most of his projects. So and there is a reason why we should do it. If you all guys understand what is the petrol price right now, 107 rupees. I mean, I don't know whether middle class can also afford such kind of a petrol price, and what's the cost of electricity. So there is every reason why electric vehicles revolution should happen in country like India, such that we just zero out the imports. It will just put our rupee in our fiscal deficit in control. So uh, I think you should study the example of Singapore. Okay, the way such a small country manages their assets, recycles every small bit. Even if you buy a laptop at home and there is a box in which the laptop is packed, how is that box recycled? They are very careful about it. They don't pollute their oceans. They don't pollute their rivers. They take care of their water bodies. They are very sensitive in terms of waste management. Uh, I would say waste is wealth in this current era. Okay. And if you have, so having a social revolution idea, having an environmental friendly idea, having an idea in terms of planting trees, reforestation, afforestation, saving oceans, saving water, all of this, if you see, uh, I mean, our prime minister keeps speaking in as many words as he can all the point in time, and he is very serious about this. Uh, I think these are brilliant opportunities. The biggest advantage India has is we are an emerging economy, so we have not invested in many of our in terms of growing our cities and building metros and so on. So the more we carefully build our societies, when we build let's say we build a house, we take care of trees and just don't destroy the environment is very important. So, my friend, if you have such ideas in terms of what do you say, environmental friendly idea, uh, it's a great idea to have. You should be very carefully planning how we are going to spend on that, how we are going to generate revenues out of that, because at the end of the day, you want to generate revenues out of it and make it a survivable model. Uh, do look at that opportunities. The reason why Mukesh Ambani is moving away from fuel is because future uh, mobility solutions is going to be more in terms of electric driven rather than fuel driven, because the fuel is a resource which will exhaust faster. So knowing all these things in mind, it also causes pollution. Keeping all these things in mind, I'm sure all of these alternative technologies will come up.
Thank you very much, sir.
Anybody else has a question? Aishwarya? Sanika?
No, ma'am, we very clear. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Welcome. You can always send your questions to me and Ashwin. We will surely try and revert back, ma'am.
Varuna Rakshak?
Sir, is it possible if we will put up a proposal, CSR proposal to Tata Trust through your channel? Is it possible?
Mr. Ashwin is our CSR. I would say so. Let me explain this. So, typically, all companies are now, it is made mandatory to spend 2% of their average post-tax profit for last 3 years to be invested in CSR idea. Each company makes a CSR strategy in terms of they look at diverse aspects which are very close to their heart in terms of health, education, uh, environment, and so on. Uh, Ashwin was earlier. Ashwin has been a pillar in our organization in terms of helping out for the CSR opportunities along with Radha ma'am. Uh, Clearly, they like the ideas. They look at those ideas and then make a decision. You talked about Tata Trust. See, please understand, I am employee of Tata Capital Housing Finance, which is a subsidiary of TCL Group. Tata Trust is about Tata Sons. So Tata Trust is are the founders, I would say, of this entire Tata Group. Uh, I personally don't have access to Tata Trust, but if you have such suggestions, you should speak to Ashwin, and I would leave it to the good office of our CSR department to take a decision. They do make a good decisions in terms of investing in ideas. Certainly, I would say that. If there is any help I can do in terms of advice or anything, you can certainly approach me. I'm always available.
We are presently discussing with one of the trustees, like Mr. Maleshwara, as well as Ani Bajaj.
Okay.
And basically, we need little push from your side. If somebody like one of the Tata organization, if they will take seriously, then definitely the trust will take a major decision.
Okay. I am. You made a very valid suggestion, but it's like beyond my. I would say I can. I mean, Ashwin. I am not sure how this works, Ashwin.
Yeah, can I take that query,
Yeah.
Mahadeo?
Yeah.
Yeah. So as Mahadeo said that every company, every Tata company has their own CSR team, and they evaluate the projects based on the need, that the company defines. Tata Trust also has their own evaluating factors. But if your ideas are good, so Tata Capital can look at look at those ideas and evaluate these ideas, and provided it falls in the scheme of our things. If not, your question was, can we route it through Tata Capital, Tata Trust? That, my friend, is a bit difficult, because Tata Trust also has their own rules, own evaluation parameters in place to look at projects. So yeah, as I said, if your idea is very good, then Tata Capital can definitely look at the idea instead of passing on to Tata Trust. So that's my take on this.
Thanks, Ashwin. So any other questions? Great. So if you think of any later, you send it to Sonali and she will liaise with Mr. Raikar and Ashwin. But in the meantime, I'd like to just say thank you so much, Mr. Raikar, for giving us your time and this wonderful presentation. It has been absolutely valuable. I learned so much as well. And I wish when I was starting off as an entrepreneur, I had the benefit of this kind of information. But thank you.
Yeah,
So
I echo the same, actually. Yes.
Ma'am, thank you so much. It was a learning for me as well, and it is interesting to know how what young minds in our country are thinking. It's like I will just leave with one last note from my side. Like Mr. APJ Kalam used to say, he was once asked a question: you played 3 roles in your life, as a scientist, as a president, and as a teacher. Which role did you enjoy the most? And he said he enjoyed the role of a teacher the most. And he was asked why. The simple answer he gave is you get to interact with people who are younger to you, who have better ideas than what you can think of. So I could hear really good ideas. It's really heartening to know that people have such great ideas in terms of using technology or being environment friendly. And no ideas are stupid. If you have ideas, they are like the wings to fly. So all the best to all of you guys. It is a learning from me, in fact, in terms of how you guys think. All the best to all of you guys. Do well in your life and career. Stay safe. We all live in a post-COVID environment. So we need not be afraid of COVID. We should take care during COVID time. But don't let our ideas go for a sleep. Let your idea do dream, and all the best to all of you.
thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Sonali. Thank you, all of you. Thanks, Ashwin. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you so much.